Hi, welcome to Viewpoint on 96.3 FM WLCN on July 2nd. I can't believe, wow, it's July and we're almost, halfway through the year. Christmas is coming. So anyway, yeah. But folks, thank you for tuning in.
I'm already listening to Christmas music. Just so you know.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. But see, I do a Christmas show at my house, computerized lights and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm already picking out
You're
music
already
for the
picking
year.
out your music. And you and my oldest need to talk because, trust me, Cole's got everything lined up. But, we could talk Christmas lights later on and
Right.
and how to decorate. That's another show. That's a great idea for Viewpoint. But, folks, thank you for tuning in. We have Scott McCoy with us, the new City of Lincoln's tourism director. So you're not a, newbie to the show, I guess we could say, but thank you for coming in. So,
yeah, great to be here. Appreciate it.
And folks, we do welcome your calls, your questions, your concerns, whatever your kudos is. Phone lines are open, 217-648-5510. Scott, like I said, you've been on the show before, but give our folks, some of our listeners don't know or they do know of you, a brief background history on you.
Well, first of all, sitting here surrounded by all this memorabilia, I'd like to say, first and foremost, I'm a Cubs fan. Originally from Pontiac, and the former mayor there, and we, of course, got tourism started with Route 66 and really built that up. So most people, I think, are pretty familiar with Pontiac. I'm also the, they say tourism director, quote unquote, but it's part of what I do with my business as a consultant and a developer. So I assist Atlanta with their tourism and bringing in buses and all of that. So that's always a good time, as well as many other entities up and down Route 66. So I have about 20 years now of experience with the 66 tourism industry, and also have some other, personal and business things with 66. So very, very involved. I live on it, I work on it, and it really, when I came into office, it really kind of changed my perception because I didn't understand tourism. I wasn't in tourism at the time. I was just a business owner in IT development. And when I kind of took this on and said, hey, let's figure this out in Pontiac, I really came to love it. And I like people. Well, I like most people, but it's but I like people, and when people come to town and they, especially foreign people that are looking around going, wow, I'm experiencing America, and to be part of that is really it's proud. As an American, it makes me proud, and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before. I think we take for granted what we have in our backyard.
Oh, yeah.
And looking at it from an eyes, from someone from overseas or from just another state of what our area, Illinois, has. Not just Logan County, like you said, Pontiac, and going on down to Williamsville, et cetera. Embrace what we have, showcase it, and show it off. Why not?
Exactly. And wherever you're from is what you're used to. So when, my wife's getting ready this month to go overseas, and she'll be in Europe, and she'll be looking at the, the castles and all the different cool things. And over there, it's just something that they have. They grew up with it. They know, they know it's neat, but whatever. And for us, Route 66 for me growing up was like nothing. Of course, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, so it really wasn't the heyday of it. But to me, it was just a way for my dad to knock 2 minutes off of coming home from Bloomington after going out to eat or something. So we grew up with it here, and we understand it, but we really don't understand how other people view it. But when people come over, and I can't tell you, I've had what's called fam tours, and they're international promoters and media, and they come over and we showcased Atlanta as the Route 66 of Illinois. Atlanta got to do that. So I've got all these, must have been 100 of them or better, and they're standing on Arch Street, which for us is just a street in downtown Atlanta. And they're like, so this is actually the original route. Yeah, it is. Oh, wow. And they're laying down on the route and taking pictures and, kissing the pavement or whatever. I mean, it was just like, wait, what? We have farm animals around here. You don't be kissing the pavement. But it's to them, it's like, I cannot believe I'm actually standing on it. And that is hard for Americans to understand because we are so used to it.
Well, and just, I keep telling people to go to Facebook. Look at some of the Route 66 Facebook pages, and when you quote unquote start, some of these people do start their trip for the Route 66 in Chicago.
Right.
And they're standing there next to the sign where Route 66 begins, and they're touching the sign, like you said, and the photos, and, we're embracing it.
Yeah.
But we become oblivious because we live with it every day.
That's exactly right. And to them, it's something new. But for the foreign traveler, it's important to understand as well with Route 66, well, a lot of them will come to America to, visit LA or Chicago or New York or Disney World or whatever it may be. They come to 66 to experience America itself and Americana. They get to see mountains. They get to see the big rivers like the Mississippi and go right over it. They get to see, Chicago and St. Louis and I mean they get to see the coast. They get to see the high desert. They get to experience the vast majority of what America has to offer on this one trip and this one route, and really going back to what built America, because 66 was that first highway, the mother road, taking us out as we continue to expand. It's kind of like the Transcontinental Railroad. It was that expansion and being able to travel now. So, and even as it rolled into the 40s and 50s and the 60s of the American road trip and all of this, they're getting to experience what America is all about. And even yet today, that experience exists for the rest of the world. And that's what they want to come do. And it's really interesting to talk to people. Well, why didn't you go? Is this your first trip to America? Yeah, it is. Why did you pick Route 66 over, say, a New York trip or an LA trip or something like that? And they're like, this is what America's all about. And this is what we wanted to experience.
Well, and I want to give kudos. Before Atlanta started embracing, the American Giants Museum, et cetera, and bringing tourism there, Jeff Hake's family, Funk's Grove, Maple Syrup, they've had numerous for years, tourists stopping in.
Oh, yeah.
From overseas, not just from other states, from overseas, other countries, and buying maple syrup right here in central Illinois. And, so kudos to them. They've been doing their own tourism thing and marketing themselves for years.
Right, exactly. And again, that's one of those very unique things. You don't get that anywhere else on Route 66.
Right.
Is to, I'm in a syrup farm or whatever it would technically be called. But it is something very unique. It is right on 66. It has a historic value. But then you look at something like Atlanta. So Atlanta, while it has historic value, obviously, the Giants aren't really, historic, right? So they began in the 60s.
I wasn't like making, poking fun at, the Giants, but it's like they've embraced it, they started it, and it's
correct,
becoming a trickle-down effect. You've got one stop, then you've got another stop, then you've got Lawndale, then we've got Lincoln.
Exactly.
So we can
but they all have something
stops.
different.
Right.
So you've got that natural resource, essentially, with the syrup at Funk's Grove, and then you have the newer, the 60s and older type of thing with the roadside Giants. So that was a different era, let's say, of Americana on Route 66. Then you have Lincoln. So with Lincoln, you have this historic downtown. It's the perfect, vision in your mind of what an older downtown in a small American town would be.
Relaxed atmosphere.
But
still a business and shopping atmosphere.
Oh, sure. And it has all of that. Yeah. But it's not a typical modern, what you would think of as a shopping center, right? Where they build it out by a big super center or something. So there's a lot of different aspects of Route 66 of what you can offer to get people to stop. Of course, the ultimate goal there is to give them something to see or experience and then drop dollars. And that's the ultimate. So when you have a Funk's Grove, which has been there forever, and it's a very unique natural resource type of a situation, and then you have something newer like in Atlanta, and then you have something completely different historic in Lincoln, they all have different stories to tell. So when somebody's traveling 66 66, they're making all these stops. You know, it's funny, I get a lot of questions about how long does it take to travel 66, and every year I do it. It's about 10 to 12 days, sometimes 14. It just depends on weather and how many people I need to see, because I'm doing it for work, basically for business. But the average person takes about 2 weeks. But there are people that travel for 3 months. They will come to America and they are here. They literally will buy a car or an RV, and then they'll sell it or whatever. But they'll spend 3 months because they want to experience absolutely everything. And a couple side trips, Grand Canyon, things like that make sense. And we just have to take advantage of that. And I'm really thrilled that Lincoln is doing that now.
It's wonderful. So you are... we're going to do this kind of as an education piece. Some of our listeners do know your capacity, some do not. So we'll get a crash course into tourism in the city of Lincoln. Are you an employee or are you a consultant? So, I already know the answer, but we're educating
So
our
I am
listeners.
not an employee. The new model for a lot of things that happen in a municipality and in government in general is to hire essentially an outside contractor. So I'm an independent contractor, quote unquote. Same thing is Atlanta and other communities that I serve. That's my business. Now, Atlanta and Lincoln are a little bit different because I'm local to them. So somebody like Albuquerque or Santa Monica or whatever, if I'm assisting them, I'm not there. So it's all remote, and I do a lot of consulting and development work with them. But here, I can be here, so it's a little bit more in depth, where I can jump on a bus and I can show people around and be that actual tour guide. And I like that because I get to talk to people. It's not just, here's what I think you should do with whatever we're talking about. It's, here's the feedback I'm getting. Here's what I'm watching people take pictures of. And that's good feedback because other communities want to know that. So in the capacity, I'm an independent contractor with both of the communities here. But Lincoln's a little bit more in depth because they're starting the department. So while the mayor calls me a department head, and in general I am, they're saving a ton of money because to hire, someone that, you're going to spend 2 or 3 times the money that they're really spending on it. I work primarily remote, but I'm in town. I was in town yesterday twice. I'm there almost every day right now, but we're going to develop it from the ground up. And that's what's really exciting, because we're going to do what Pontiac did. We're going to take it from starting at zero and build it up.
Right. Another one I've had people ask me to ask you. State Bank of Lincoln. Downtown, the bank sold, city bought it. I believe purchase price was $150,000. Tell our listeners, how did they buy it? What funds did they use to purchase the building? What is in the works for the old State Bank of Lincoln? I shouldn't say old, but the Bank of, State Bank of Lincoln.
So I'll answer that kind of backwards.
Sure.
The purpose of it will be economic development and tourism, which of course tourism is economic development. I know the mayor talked about that a little bit yesterday on Lloyd's show. It'll definitely be a hub. So I told them we have to have a center, a place for people to stop. So call it a visitor center or whatever you want to call it. But there'll be a lot more to it that we'll announce as we get closer. We have a couple things that are in the works legally that we have to get on paper and signed before we can publicly release them, because we don't want to say, hey, we're going to do this or do that and have it not really come to fruition. So that is really what the purpose is going to be. It's going to be tourism focused and pulling people into town and keeping them in town instead of a drive-by shooting. Here's something you drive by, you take a photo and leave, right? Like the wagon or something. So the funding with that is all coming out of the hotel-motel tax. Hotel-motel tax is collected when people put their heads in the beds there at the hotels or the B&Bs, and then the city collects a fee for every night that they're there. That comes into the city, and by the state of Illinois law, it has to be used for tourism. So we can't fix a road, we can't put a new crosswalk in and that type of thing. It has to be used, earmarked for tourism. So using those funds is what paid for that building. Now, I will tell you, it's pretty fantastic to work with the Heartland Bank there that owned that building. When we first went in and kind of were looking at it to see if this would suit our purposes, they were very willing to work with the city. Of course, they want to sell their building. It's not being used. It's a little bit of a blight, just having a big open building there.
Right.
And our uses are very unique, something that is going to help the community as a whole, and the bank was very interested in being part of that. So they worked with us, and we got that building for like half of what they were asking.
I was going to say, it's pretty. I mean, that was a very good purchase price, seriously.
Yes, it is. And it includes that lot,
the
too.
parking lot. My gosh, yes. Yeah, that parking lot.
So there's a lot of really great things that came together, and a lot of collaboration between the city and the city leadership and the mayor and the bank and their officials and so forth that really came together and it happened. That's something in Pontiac we didn't have. I mean, we used the city building for the first museum, but we really didn't have a real nice facility to make something happen like that, like right off the bat, immediately.
I know Tracy mentioned on Lloyd's show yesterday on 411, it's also going to be possibly an incubator.
Correct.
So explain an incubator to our listeners.
Okay, so an incubator is when you have a government entity, or it could be private as well, but usually it's a government entity that has small offices in a building that are available for somebody to rent on a short-term basis and incubate a new business. So, I think I want to do IT development. I'll pick on that since that's what I'm in. But they don't want to go out and spend $800 a month or $1,000 a month on a building or an office somewhere else. So these are small offices where people can start a business. There would be a limit, let's say 12 months or whatever it may be. And that's it. I mean, if you either make it or you don't, and then you got to move out and buy a building, rent something bigger or whatever. But it's a place to kind of
a landing,
feel it out,
get your feet wet, somewhat planted, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's difficult to start a business if you need an actual office of some sort. So if you're going to do consulting, for an example, and I'm going to consult on, I don't know, recovering from being a Cardinals fan. And but it's something I can't do from my home, or I don't have the room for it, or I live in an apartment and don't have the room or whatever. So you have to go out and find. So this is a way to make it more inexpensive and shared resources. So they would all be in the building. So the corner building there of the bank is a bunch of small offices with a shared set of restrooms and a shared kitchenette and a shared
so it's pretty much already
room.
Set up, if you want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can utilize you're utilizing what is already there.
Right.
And making use of it.
Right. So for a couple $100 or whatever it may be, that's, I don't know, but it'd be very inexpensive. But you have the restrooms, you have a kitchenette, you have your own private office that you can lock, you have a shared conference room so you can bring clients in and talk to them and be in a professional setting for very, very cheap to get your business going. Because I'll put my old mayoral hat on a little bit here in economic development, is if you can incubate and help people start these little businesses, then they'll grow, hopefully, and hire people,
you're
buy
investing,
a building.
you're reinvesting or starting to invest within your community.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
That's the big picture.
And in Pontiac, we did that as well. Now, there they actually use these little, Tracy likes to call them little she sheds, but because they're colorful and they're bright and whatever. But they're literally sheds outside, and so you don't have a restroom, and there's different things that are. It's not quite the same. This is a professional setting. When we saw that the building complex utilized that as well, or had that availability, I should say, it's already there, then it was like, wow, this is something we could go even beyond a tourism aspect and get more into the economic development of businesses.
Do you think Lead would leave their offices there from Burwell's building and come over or not?
I'm sure it's a possibility. That's all in the mayor's hands. So, he's talking to people and working with that as we move forward. I'm concentrating more on the tourism aspect
side.
of things.
So then the city's handling more of the incubating type aspect development of that.
Could be.
then?
It could be a city direct function. It could be lead. It could be. I know he's in talks and working with all those
Awesome,
entities to see what.
So if we got somebody
availability
listening,
is.
going, "Oh, okay, this is what I think." Who should they be directed to? Should if they're
To the city in general. One of us can help them and get them to the right person, depending on what it is. But there's a lot of talk of what other things could happen there as well, like the downtown association, or maybe they needed something to rent or have a spot. There's a million things that can happen here, and that's what's really neat is we're not buying, say, an old Kmart or something that's just one big, huge open building. We have the big bank building there, which will be the tourism focus, but then you have there's really 3 buildings inside there. But then you have the other 2, which are more kind of larger offices, and then these smaller shared office situation. So the buildings can be closed off and used for independent purposes, but yet opened up and used together. Tons of possibilities. It's a gem in the middle of downtown, which is a gem. And, our brains are kind of exploding with, wow, this could happen and that could happen.
Yeah.
And
the vision of it. And where we go.
And that's what's exciting is the city council and the leadership said, wow, we see that vision too, and we want to be part of that because that's what's good for the community.
What about the depot? As we know, it's been reported that Logan County Tourism has moved out. They weren't kicked out, folks. They were not left on, their own accord. Went to the mill.
Right.
And so now we've got the depot there. What's possibly in the works there for the depot? What ideas is the city kicking around?
Yeah, again, we've talked about it quite a bit. Nothing really set. I know that the Genealogical Society, I have a hard time with that word. I can't believe I said that properly. So I'm going to have to save this episode because that was pretty good. But I know there's been some interest, so maybe they would go over there. There's some others that have looked at it. We've talked about maybe an event venue for weddings or something. There's a million different possibilities.
It's a beautiful
Again, it's gorgeous, absolutely stunning. It didn't work for what we were looking for a hub for tourism, because what we want to do is going to require some more building and development and all of that. And we don't want to hurt that building. It's a historic building, and we don't want to deface it inside or whatever you want to think of it. Tourism, the bureau itself moved out because when they went down to one person, especially, there was an issue with security because of the proximity of the train station, some different people. Twice while I was there assisting them and so forth, there was twice I had to call the PD to come over and handle a situation. So it was more of a safety concern, and they moved their staff out to the mill, which was, I think, a good move. Plus, out there, they have more ability to...
Well, and they're out there anyway giving tours of the mill.
Right.
And they were splitting their time, between the depot and there, too. So.
Exactly. So even in the summer, they were half the time closed at the depot anyway. So it all worked out, and I think that's best for them. And it's good to have the mill open. They sell more things in the gift shop. But we'll continue to talk about the depot. Again, whether it's tourism or not, or community related, that'll be up to the city.
And need to remind our folks, Tracy got Mayor Welch did get an email from Amtrak a few weeks ago stating the numbers for 2024. Over 18,000 people got either on or off the Amtrak there in Lincoln.
Yeah, it's busier than you might think. And I'm not saying that those security issues were necessarily Amtrak related.
Right, and that's why we're going down there. But I'm meaning the tourism and the people, coming off. And I've seen people get off saying, "Hey, we came up from Springfield.
Yes.
We wanted to go downtown and eat. We're going to catch the train back going to Springfield and just kind of enjoy." Doing that. And I've seen people or talked to them that done it from Pontiac or Joliet who've come to Lincoln and gone back up there. So, and utilized our downtown businesses.
Exactly. It's a great asset to have. And we can utilize it. Again, the depot itself is really gorgeous, and there's some really cool stuff that can happen there. But we'll see. It's nice to have options. It is. As you develop economic development and tourism and
utilize those.
Yes.
Fast forward to yesterday. we have a donut.
Yes.
I told Jim, I said, we have a donut in town. So, folks, if you're driving around going, what is she talking about? Mellow Cream has a Mellow Cream donut on the southeast side of their parking lot. If you've not been following city council meetings, I urge you to do so, because this has been discussed, talked about, whatever you want to call it, for months. And so educate our listeners on the donut.
Sure. So the donut, and then the big, what we call the Lincoln
The big
letters
Lincoln
next
letters,
to it.
yes.
Yeah. Those were two projects of the Logan County Tourism Bureau. They are not city or city funded, or
And
really
Scott
have
McCoy just
anything.
got hired and brought on, and by golly, he brought the donut. Way to
While
go.
I was involved in some of the grant work, I really had nothing to do with the development of it or whatever. So this all started back in, I believe, August and September of last year. So it's about a year old. And there was a grant that the Bureau had available called the Route 66 grant from the state of Illinois. They came up with these different projects. There was some, bringing the new Giants into Atlanta, two of the new ones. So those installation costs were covered. We have some benches that are coming and so forth. So these were two of those projects, and they were granted by the state and then, of course, put into motion to be fabricated and brought in. So yeah, the donut arrived yesterday. It's 10-foot diameter, which is pretty neat, and it's about 11 and a half, 12 feet tall. It's huge.
It is.
It's a massive,
It looks
massive
really
donut.
neat, though.
It
really,
is.
really does.
It's very, very unique, and the Lincoln letters are neat too. And the cool thing is both of them, you can take a photo now from that location, and you get the courthouse in the
Downtown.
background. Right, the new mural is all over there.
it's placed quite strategically if you actually kind of sit back and look at it.
Yes, it is.
It is placed very nicely there.
And it's already getting attention, especially up and down the Route 66 corridor and those communication channels on Facebook and so forth. But it was all grant money. It was all applied, went through the Bureau. So the Bureau gets credit for that. It's state money. It did not come out of even hotel motel tax. It was all grant money, and
it was done before you were hired. I'm sorry,
it
but you
was,
know what
yes.
I mean? It was kind of comical. Everybody's like, they just hired him. He got it done that fast. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, I couldn't even bake a real donut that fast.
You're good. You're real good, Scott.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And it was nice to be involved with it. The Bureau, like I said, did hire me to be involved with some of the grant work, mostly just paperwork and some negotiation stuff that happens after the grant is approved, and then you got to get the stuff built.
Right.
And of course, the director left, so they were a little bit of a bind, and they brought me on then. But yes, that was not my idea concept. So I appreciate the credit, but I don't deserve any of that credit.
And I do. So you did mention on some social media outlets, talking about the donut, then we'll go on. Heather Klopp Cosby owns Flossing Delzina's downtown, and she did post on social media on someone's Facebook page I saw last night. She states, "It puts us on Route 66 maps. It's fun. I had people in from Chicago today who came off the highway to eat at my shop, and they took pictures. It's a good thing."
Yeah.
So we really do, it's reinvesting, if you want to say, or investing in that drawing of downtown Lincoln
Correct.
and what we have to offer in our community.
Yeah, it's hard to explain because I'm not one of these people that go around and go, "Ooh, a big donut, I'm gonna go take a picture up." It's just not me personally. But like my kids loved it.
Yeah.
I was out there with Lexi with the Tourism Bureau, and she absolutely her eyes were wide, and she loved. Of course, she was really involved with it, so it's neat for her to see it I'm looking at it as a business project. I'm looking at it like that, and she's looking at it like, this is so cool, and then she wanted her picture taken with it. We had a young, like a summer class or group of kids, the little kids, and they happened to be walking by, and that's all. Look at that, a big donut, a big donut. And they had to come over, and they were the first ones to get their pictures with it. And so we'll share that. That's pretty neat.
In years past, I saw folks standing in front of the giant covered wagon, and then they take off.
Right.
So there's nowhere really to stop, draw, pull them into within our community to stop and shop and do whatever.
Correct. And with the wagon, it's a unique situation because it's...
I mean, I'm not picking on the wagon, the location,
Right.
but now we've got the donuts. Like, these concepts are coming. We need to think about this
correct.
and keep going.
It's also a location situation with that. And
True.
I was told it was put out there because that's where the tourism / whatever, the Alliance or whatever was out there.
Yeah.
Or we're close to
In
it.
that area, yeah.
So... we're in talks with the city, maybe getting all of those assets from the Bureau so they don't have to maintain them anymore. And some of that may be moved. We're also discussing that because I'm going to look at it everything as we rebuild tourism and starting from scratch and build tourism, is you have to look at everything, and that includes the placement of where things are and what does it get people to drive by. So if you go to a big box store, you go down to the wall bobs, let's call it, and their placement inside everywhere in the store is there on purpose. They make the majority of their money on the stuff that's in the back.
Yep.
Because that's the staple stuff. But then they get you to walk by all the other stuff. And it's all strategic. Same thing with Radio Shack. Radio Shack always had their phones on the right side when you walked into a Radio Shack. That was strategic because the phone system, the phone department was their biggest seller. That by far. And your right-hand side is what you look at when you first walk into any facility. So those are things that people just don't think about. But if you're in marketing, you do.
Right.
Big things that are attractions need to have the same situation. What are people going to see? How are they going to see it? 75 to 80% of the people drive from Chicago and go westbound on 66. The vast majority of them do. So
and they're
you want
starting
things to
off
face
with
that way.
a full checkbook, debit card, checking account,
Correct.
Or their quote unquote tourism mad money, their vacation money, full now. They're not ending, their tour, the Route 66 tour
Right.
here. They're starting off, so they're happier to spend those funds.
Right, exactly. But then you also have to think about the marketing of those particular
Right.
assets too, to get them to stop. So I'll give you a real neat example. There was a Facebook group where a woman posted, "Oh, look at this, is so cool," and she posted a picture of her standing in front of the big wagon. And I'm like, this is great, with a big headline, Lincoln, Indiana.
Oh no!
Now we all know that's wrong, and I got on there and corrected it and whatever. But there's nothing in that picture that she
says
would
Lincoln.
take that say Lincoln, Illinois
Yep.
on it, right? So in even working with another entity in a different community, and they were designing their logos and some different things, and I'm like, you can't just have. Well, I'll tell you, it was in Lexington. So you can't just have Lexington. There's more than one Lexington in the United States, and you aren't the most famous one.
Lexington,
So
Kentucky pops in my head.
Yeah, you have to have Illinois on there somewhere, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we never thought about that."
Yeah.
So it's my job is to put all that thinking together into a plan and a marketing approach that gets people to come in and drop those dollars. The wagon, the hub, the all this stuff gets them here and talking, and it's free PR. Then it's up to us as the community, the business owners as well, that once you get somebody in there, now we got to keep them in town and give them more things to experience, and that's when they start dropping dollars.
So, again, also educate our community, our listeners. The motor fuel tax.
Yep.
So people are like, tourism dollars should be going to, pay for the culvert, pay for the potholes. You've already said, no, that's not what the tourism dollars is for, cannot be used for.
Correct.
So when someone gets off the highway, of course, we're going to try to entice them in to downtown Lincoln, within the community to spend money. The motor fuel tax, where does that revenue go to?
Sure. So very similar to hotel motel, like you said, that has to be for tourism. The MFT funds have to be used for roads, construction, bridges, turn signals, those type of things. Because it comes in from the road, motor fuel, it's for road construction. So it can't be used for anything else. If you think about it with government, government's a big red tape bucket, right? And almost everything has some kind of a stipulation on it of where it can and can't be used. It's very easy for the public just to think, oh, this is tax money or our money, and this is what we need in the community. A lot of times you cannot just take a fund from something and put it over somewhere else, and their hands are tied. And I know I get it. It's the simplification of thinking about it. With tourism, do you want? And I see this comment like you brought up on Facebook a lot. Well, our roads need fixed or potholes or fixed or whatever. And why are we buying a building? Well, you couldn't use it if you wanted to. Yeah, it's not applicable. And
in years past, how has the motor fuel tax, has it increased, decreased? Has it been about the same for the city? I know I gave you some homework before you came on.
Yeah. So I'll pull for everybody watching online on the video. I pull
Grab
out
your cheaters.
my cheat sheet. Yeah, and take my glasses off. So obviously I've not been involved with the city for very long yet.
Yes.
So this is all news to me as far as the data goes. But Chuck Conzo is absolutely, I mean, this guy is on the ball. I mean, he has everything of everything and knows where every penny is, which is awesome. But the motor fuel tax, it accumulates or comes in, you're looking at about somewhere between 25,000, something like that a month, according to his spreadsheets here for this year. And that's actually up a little bit. So, there's quite a bit of funds there, it seems like, when you see it. But I will tell you, knowing what things cost, these don't go very far.
No, it does not, even though there's been a small increase. Right. The point I'm making is, once we start, we as a community, you, everyone, the city, all of us working together, start promoting Logan County, start bringing people in, and actually the city of Lincoln, start bringing people in to buy fuel, then bringing them down. They do want to stop. They're spending money. They're going to be spending more money on fuel, not just besides hotel, motel.
Exactly.
It sheds light on this. You know where I'm going with this. I want you to tell our listeners.
So, yeah, when somebody comes to town, obviously, the simple thing is they're going to spend money. And it's everywhere where you think and don't think.
Truly.
It is kind of a trickle-down effect. The more time you spend in town, the thirstier you're going to get, or you're going to be hungry, or you're driving around a lot and you're going to use gas, and you're going to need to get gas. Maybe you're going to spend the night. If we give them something more to do here, which is going to be one of my focuses of being here in the evenings, now they're more likely to spend the night, which means another dinner and a breakfast and a fill up of the vehicle and all these different things. And then of course you have regional. So regional tourism is like the cattle shows or a golf tournament. And even if they're just in the area, say in Springfield, people will still stay in our hotels, and that brings people in too. But it's all those things. Then it's tax dollars, it's MFT funds, it's sales tax, it's getting them to buy a cup of coffee while they're downtown. It's the whole reason that bars have popcorn and peanuts is to get you to be thirsty and buy something. And there's always to drink. So you got to think 3-4 steps ahead, like in a chess game, instead of just, we have a big donut or a big giant or a
we just bought the bank, whoopee-doo.
Yeah. So that is, now I will tie all that in, because that's the focus that you brought up, which is great. That's what people need to really concentrate on. The hub that we're going to create out of that old building, the old bank building, everybody calls it, is to now touch that traveler. So when somebody comes in, take a picture of a donut or the wagon, that's wonderful. They're here. But we got to get a magnet to pull them into one particular location. That's a hub. This building will be that, we'll call a visitor center, right? So now they're interacting with some of our staff. When they interact with the staff gets them to spend more money in a different way. You don't go, hey, go spend money. You just say, are you thirsty? Hey, it's about lunchtime. Hey, I've got a coupon here for 10% off at such and such restaurant down the street. Could you use that? And when you work with them in a strategic way, now we get them to stay. So I'll put it back into simple terms. I'll be out at the wagon sometime, and somebody will come up I'll be taking pictures or whatever, and somebody will just come up to take a picture, and I'll get talking to them. Hey, where are you from? Oh, this. And I get talking to them. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know that was down there. Oh, the big donut. Oh, yeah, go down there. Oh, well, is there any place good down there to eat? Oh, yeah, you're hungry? And now they touched somebody from tourism. There's a direct connection, and you can do something with them. Same way with bringing a bus in or a large tour. In Atlanta, we bring in a ton of tours. I just set up another one already for next year. And when they get to talk to me and understand what else we have available, and I ask them, can I set up a lunch for you? Can we do this? Can we do that? Oh, what do you have available? Next thing you know, you have a bus of 50 plus people all going to have lunch at the Country Air. That's a huge turnaround from them just coming in and wanting to see the museums and leave. And that is the focus that you have to have in tourism. That's the mindset. That's where my mind goes. Again, the stuff to bring people in is great.
Hospitality and selling and highlighting what you have.
Right.
Truly.
So let's talk about the donut real fast. How many people now are talking about the donut online? A ton.
Oh, yeah.
How many of them are talking about it in town versus out of town? Both. A ton. People are talking about it. They're sharing it. They're going up there and taking pictures.
Free advertisement.
Yes. So what's everybody doing when they're taking a picture? They are standing on the property of that donut shop.
Yep.
Well, let's go in and check it out. And they'll go in, and even if I'm not from the area originally, I'm from Pontiac. I didn't know what mellow cream was. Never heard of it until I started working here in Atlanta, and then of course, so apparently it's like a staple in Lincoln. But people like me who are going to go take a picture of that oh wow, this is a pretty good donut shop. And then they'll go into the donut shop.
Well, circling back, a few months ago, they painted the beautiful mural on the back of the building there where Rio Grande restaurant is at. And as you said, the donut is strategically placed on the southeast corner there. If you're standing there and you're taking a photo, you have the courthouse of downtown Lincoln, plus you have got the mural painted on that building that says Lincoln, Illinois. So everything works hand in hand, and it's great marketing. They take a photo, they put it on social media. That is free advertisement.
Exactly.
They didn't have to go spend $75,000 with a marketing firm when you've got real people talking about this who are excited.
Right. And they will sell more than you will.
They'll sell more than any marketing firm that you hire to place ads throughout social media. That's
exactly right. So the Logan County Tourism Bureau last year, in looking at their numbers, spent about $12,000 on SEO, which is search engine optimization, coming up first in a search engine list or paying for ads in them, things like that. Look at the ROI, the return on investment for something you get there. In Atlanta, you want to take a guess in Atlanta with the budget I have there. Now, keep in mind, they spent about $250,000 was their budget in intake for the Bureau. In Atlanta...
For Logan County, we're talking.
For Logan County,
yep.
Right. So their budget was, $250,000. My budget in Atlanta for money I can spend is $5,000. So it's a lot, and I never spend all of it. So for less than $5,000, how much of that do you think I spent in advertisement, marketing, billboards, radio ad, those type of things? What do you think I spent on it?
I would guess probably $800.
Zero. Didn't spend a dime. It was all internet marketing, and most of it isn't even from me, because it's other people.
And you're not paying a company. That's the big highlight there. You're not paying a company to market.
Correct. And it's not that those aren't good services and good thing. It depends on the business. Right. It's like even with radio here. Radio has a tremendous outreach, but you aren't going to put an ad on this particular station here for
China.
Right. Walt Disney World or something. Right. Right. Because it's just not.
I'm just saying, but for them to come over here and spend the money.
Right. You got to have that market. But when you have the market, when you have people taking pictures and then sharing it, then you get that exposure. Now, would you go somewhere because somebody told you who was a friend? And, that really kind of sinks into somebody's psyche, or whatever the word is I'm looking for. It's personal. It makes it more personal than in a billboard on the street.
When we meaning the station, we inherited and became the official headquarters for the Route 66 garage sales,
Yeah.
we had folks reaching out to us, hey, we're coming 3 hours away.
Yep.
What else is there to do here, in your area? Lloyd was getting asked so many questions about that. I made sure we had it in as many without getting shut down from Facebook, by posting in those groups.
Right.
I mean, because what I'm meaning by that, folks, is you're allowed so many times you can keep posting, on one day of one topic, but nonetheless, you're creating the momentum, and it's free on social media, and the realism, and like you said, we didn't spend a dime on advertisement.
It's a really fascinating aspect that you brought up there
But
with the
we
garage
brought
sales.
in lots of people, and people are actually looking forward, to next year, and hopefully we're going to build it bigger and better.
Exactly. You had a tremendous job, by the way. I mean, it was, like you said, it was all over. I saw everywhere. People were talking about
Thank
it.
you, but
people were
still.
asking me questions about it. It was great. But see, it's also that type of event where you're right. Other people will go out and say, hey, if the more people we talk to and the more garage sales we get, the bigger the event and the more it helps us all. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the Route 66 mentality, is we're all working together in this linear community. But those people sharing it, et cetera, you can do so much of it by directly touching those people. Then they go out and they talk and touch other people and share it, and then that brings more in. It's a unique world we live in with social media of,
And more is real. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's a regular paid ad. That was I guess you want to say a professional ad. But the more realism, regular human being, giving their own testimonial, that sells 10 times
it's
better.
personal, yeah, and it's a one-off type of event. While it may be an annual event, it's a one. You're concentrating on this one thing, and it's not repetitive marketing. It's strategic marketing. So repetitive is, just for everybody out there, is like Coca-Cola. They don't have to advertise, but they spend more in advertising than like almost any other company, and it's just because it's repetitive. So when you think about being thirsty, you think of that particular product, and here, so that is great advertising. Or you think about selling a home or whatever, who am I going to think about? And you want it to pop up when they need it. But a trip on Route 66 is something they're going to do anyway. They've already made the decision. They're going to fly to the United States and do this trip. Now it's a matter of getting them to stop. It's a whole different type of a marketing strategy.
Not to put you on the spot, is it in your wheelhouse to possibly, moving forward for next year, I brought up to you before we went on the show, and I sent you a message, we had Team Purebred. Some of you folks do not know what I'm talking about. That is a large pig show in Springfield, Illinois, that has been going on for over 20 years. This year they had over 2,400 head of hogs, over 700 kids showing down there. Plus then you had the Memorial Health Championship golf tournament, the Corn Ferry. Both of those are on the same week. Hotels, Airbnbs, they're packed, sold out, restaurants, etc. Now this week right now we've got the big All-American Sheep Show at the State Fairgrounds. They've got the Western Horse Show for the Illinois State Fair. Where I'm going with this, folks, is one, we were talking about the motor fuel tax, people stopping, spending money. Also, two, then hopefully we could bring them in and staying at our hotels and motels. Moving forward to next year for 2026, would you be interested, or are you going to try to target those organizations, those companies coming in, or I want to say events, not companies, but events coming in in the surrounding area to hopefully spend money with us?
Of course, yeah. Getting that type of event here is...
Well, not bringing the event here, but I mean bringing
right.
the families to possibly stay. Hey,
correct.
Springfield may be too expensive. I'm not picking on the city of Springfield. Maybe too expensive. They may be full.
Correct.
We're about 30 minutes away, just straight down the interstate.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's where I'm going with it. Obviously, no, we're not bringing the event.
Yes, and
but what I'm meaning is the individuals that are attending it
absolutely.
or visiting it.
Absolutely. That is always something you want to piggyback on. Anything that's happening in the area, you want to piggyback on it. If we can get people to stop and stay here. Really, that's not a tourist for us in Lincoln, but it would be a tourist. I mean, there's dollars to be dropped, so let's take
Or say, while
advantage
you're
of
there,
that.
this is what we have. This is what we've got here
Exactly.
in the area.
And if
Send
they're
them a
staying
pamphlet or
here,
reach out to. Yes.
Yeah, they'll eat and then they'll fill up here and they will. Yeah.
So I mean,
you
besides the
always,
donut and besides our giants and that's great, and expanding and talking about State Bank of Lincoln, what about spreading out and branching out, and bringing in the people attending those events, possibly
exactly
here?
Yeah, and it's a different type of marketing
Right.
to them, but yes. Now, in some of those situations, like working with the CVB in Sangamon County and Springfield, they're trying to keep everybody there in that area.
But we all know that's not really
that's
gonna
going to be a
happen.
little
I mean,
competitive.
yeah.
But yes, absolutely. If we can fill up here, let's fill up.
Mm-hmm.
That is, my job is to put people in those hotels, in those restaurants, and in those gas stations, and in those gift shops, and in the the donut shops or whatever. If we can get people here, and if they're in the area, then they'll come over and check it out and stop by.
Mm-hmm.
That, excuse me, that is definitely something that we would concentrate on.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, and it's year round. I mean, I know I'm
There's
highlighting
always something happening.
the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
That fairgrounds is utilized all year long, but there's other things going on in the community. But that's the livestock side of me going, no, trust me. There's
Yeah.
a lot of dollars being dropped.
Well, and there's a lot of the little tours and things that people don't even think about. So there's a quilting tour.
Mm-hmm.
People get on a tour bus and they go around and they just go to quilting places. And there's a really great one in Lincoln.
And,
I mean, it's a
and she's
really
been
neat-
doing it. She's, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Barrick is just she's rocking it.
Right, but it's things like that you bring in these. There's stuff happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a farm show. It could be a business expo and all of that. And that's the convention side of convention and visitors bureaus.
Yeah, because we got the Farm
and
Progress
it's-
show coming up in August in Decatur.
Correct. But again, those are one-offs. While we'll
Right.
definitely work on those,
Right.
those are not generally a focus because they're one-offs.
Right.
It happens once a year, or it happens one time and then it'll move to another location somewhere else.
Right.
And it's a lot of work for those. Something like Route 66, which is what really makes this unique and
right.
a gem,
Right.
is you're going to have 100,000 people going by here in the next few months, whether you like it
Do
or
you
not.
want to shed some light, because some people are still got their heads stuck in the sand? Explain why. Why is Route 66 going to be so awesome and unique for 2026?
Well, for 2026 it's the 100-year anniversary, so the big birthday bash and everybody's developing all of this new stuff is because we're going to have a big increase in travelers. I mean, there are already hotels that have been booked for all of this year already, for next year. It's going to be hard to find hotel rooms in some locations. The RV parks are already, booking
Right.
and getting ready to be full, and it's just going to be a ton of people because it's being promoted. And it's being promoted as well by each of the 8 states and the United States itself and, several different organizations. So all these people are getting ready and planning for 2026. But after that will continue the momentum. So like when the movie Cars came out, there was a big, surge
my I
in
use
interest of
Cars for you for
66.
the
Yeah.
commercial for-
So in 86 or whatever that came
Yeah.
out. So when that came out, but still to this day, people want to know where are all the places that Cars based off of, because we're going to come in and that's why we're doing it with our kids. That was a long time ago that movie came out. It was like ancient anymore, right? Well, that makes me sound old. But those type of things. So we'll have this big 100 years next year, and it'll increase, which is why the city of Lincoln we're moving so quickly, because we need to get something
The
ready.
city's behind the 8 ball. I'm just going to say it right now.
By at least 4 years,
The city
yeah.
is behind the 8 ball on this.
Yeah.
Nothing has been, rock solid, planned, hard, whatever you want to call it, done for this event.
Right, exactly, and I think that's why the city leaders and the mayor really pushed on this. The mayor and I have been talking for like 2 years or better, maybe, and it just on and off and some different things and so forth. But the timing was right. It's time to make some major changes there, and that's
The
what
Illinois
they
State
decided to do.
Fairgrounds. You go by at night and it's lit up. They got that corner there on the southeast corner.
66 experience.
66 Experience. They've been embracing. They keep adding to it,
Correct.
and they've been highlighting also now Logan County.
Yeah.
As well as, other, counties
Yeah.
up and down 66. But, nonetheless.
The neat thing is you don't have to advertise for these people.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming on 66 anyway. If they're interested in 66 at all, they're going to be on 66 for every location.
So the village of Elkhart, I mean, my gosh, right down the road, in Broadwell.
Correct. So let's just say there's 10,000 visitors this week in Atlanta and Lincoln. So Elkhart is going to have how many visitors? 10,000. They're all going to be going by there. How many people stop, take a picture? What is there to offer? What is there to take a picture of? Those type of things. Depends on how much time that they're going to spend there. So that is what their goal would be. Not to pick on them, but whatever.
Right.
There's a million different communities that have people going through. And if you don't have a reason for them to stop and
They're not
spend
going
money,
to.
it doesn't do you any good, but maybe a photo op. And that's what each town's got to figure that out.
Right.
Atlanta has the Bunyan Giant. That was kind of their claim to fame. Before that, there really wasn't much to do.
And again,
or see.
I'll talk about Country Air. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
They embraced it. They got a waitress with a pie.
Right.
How cool is that?
But what they did more specifically is they got people 4 blocks away on historic Route 66.
Right.
There's also a newer alignment of 66 they're closer to, but most people go down the 1926 alignment. They can't even see the restaurant from there. But now they're in guidebooks and apps and maps.
And they remodeled and they've embraced the 66
theme. Yes, and so did the hotel there. The hotel's 66 themed.
And there's a lot of people, if you look on social media, like you and I follow these groups. So folks, I want you to go on and look at these Route 66 Facebook groups. Where's the coolest hotel to stay at? It's not the Crown Plaza in Springfield. It's these neat little mom and pop places too, as well.
And that's really what 66ers are looking for. Not to concentrate solely on 66,
right.
But this is where our crowd is. This is where, this is our known audience. And they are looking for that nostalgic look. I mean, they will spend the same amount of money as a nice hotel at these little mom pop historic thing where they sit outside with a campfire with other travelers and talk to them.
Yeah.
It's the experience that they're after here. And that's what Lincoln's
nostalgia and going back, and that relaxing time period.
Yes. Or to see what that time period was like for Americans.
Right.
Because they, coming from France or whatever, never had that experience. And they want to see what it's like. It's like horse riding. That's a huge request for Route 66 travelers. Where can I go horseback riding?
Really?
You know what another one is? This is kind of unique. One of the biggest requests for travelers is to find a place to do what? What do you think? I'll put you on the spot.
Jim, what do you think it would be? He has no idea.
Shoot a firearm.
Really?
Think about how many countries they don't do that, or they don't have access, or especially like Australians and so forth. A lot of these people just have never shot a firearm, and they know America's known for the land of the free and people carry and all kinds of stuff. And every farmer's got 12 in the truck and all that stuff is what they hear. So they're just like, we want to go, at least go see one or go to a gun shop or something. And that is that's a part of that tourism that people don't think about. But those are the types of requests that we get.
That is unique.
Yeah, isn't that weird? But again, we're used to it here.
Right.
They are not used to it, so they want to experience something that they don't normally get to experience, and that's the focus that Lincoln's going to put on it from this point on.
That's wonderful. Well, Scott, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to visit with you and talk tourism. XRN folks, thank you for tuning into Viewpoint on 96.3. Thank you for the City of Lincoln for sharing it with us, Scott. I greatly appreciate it. Wishing you all the best.
We're going to have some fun. We'll have some fun together. Let's make this happen.
We will. So the Lord and weather willing, we'll be back next